Mountaineer Nation, let's ride.
But Don Nealon's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread. As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football. Here is Harris in trouble. Stiff arms. The would-be tackler comes down over the 25 to 20. Goes around about it to 15 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
Fakes the Slater one-on-one with the defender. Look at Pat White.
West Virginia football. You know what that's about. They don't know what it's about. West Virginia football. Put our tape on. Take the shoes up on time. No more hair in the helmet.
Let them know. Leave no doubt tonight. Leave no doubt tonight. No doubt. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
And now, the show brought to you by Mountaineer fans, for Mountaineer fans, the Country Roads Webcast.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into Season 5, Episode 141 of the CRW Podcast, our Baylor Review and Reactions edition. As always, I'm your host, Jordan Cruz, and I got my co-host here with me. We've got Bradley.
What's up, everybody?
We're here to talk about the victory over Baylor. The Mountaineers come out on top, get back on the winning side of things, back to 500 on the season, keep Baylor winless in Morgantown, and secure their first conference win of 2022, as they now sit at 3-3 overall in the season and 1-2 in Big 12 conference play through 6 games, halfway through the 2022 season. Brad, I know me and you got a chance to talk about it on our instant reaction show immediately following the game we did there for the West Virginia channel at the Voice of College Football. But now here for the CRW podcast, a couple of days later, a little bit more to think about it. What's kind of your opening thoughts, I guess, about this game, having had a few days to reflect on it now?
Yeah, and I think more importantly is being able to see the rest of the Big 12 play and getting to see, the rest of the college play on Saturday, getting a little bit more perspective in there for where we're sitting at. And, yeah, I think this win is huge for our program right now as it stands. I think that you could definitely hear Neil Brown talking afterwards, and you could tell that he knows the brevity of this win and understands, every week going forward, it's probably going to be this way. If you win, it's going to be good, but not good enough. And if you lose, it's going to be damnable, and it sucks, but you kind of, it's a position you're in. I'm really happy for Neil Brown to get that win. I really support him. I'm glad to see him get a win, and definitely starting to see some more life in the fan base. More people starting to get behind him. Yeah, that win against Baylor is big. And, Neil Brown brought up the fact that, we've won 3 out of the last 4, which is important, but you've also only won 3 out of the last 6, So I think that you got to take that with a grain of salt there. It's easy to cherry pick, since you've been winning. But, yeah, really big win. And so we were able to kind of run against Baylor, which we were worried about. Ika really didn't get to play that much, and I think that that's important. Got a couple injuries that probably swung in our favor. But overall, man, we went out there and we scored more points than they did. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one thing that finally, like you said, West Virginia had a few breaks go their way this game. And it seemed like in the first 5 games, West Virginia could never get any breaks. So I guess they were really due, and they had several in this game. As you mentioned, starting quarterback for Baylor Bears, Blake Shapen, going out with a concussion when he was having a career day. Andrew Wilson-Lamp with the targeting there as he was sliding down. Not really Wilson-Lamp's fault, really kind of unavoidable. But West Virginia be without Wilson-Lamp coming up against Texas Tech in the first half because of it. Hopefully Blake Shapen's all right and comes back for Baylor. But, you got that break as well as, some balls literally bouncing your way when Shapen dropped the one scrambling out, literally bounced your way on that one.
Preston Fox is bouncing back into his hand.
Preston Fox's, muffed punt just coming right back to him. There was definitely a few breaks the Mountaineers got, but they were overdue there, I think. So it was good to see.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think we owe, maybe a modicum of apology to Reese Smith for praying for Preston Fox, or we should be mad that Preston Fox can't catch the ball either. I don't know. But
I don't know if it's just a curse right now or if it's just in their heads.
So we wanted to see back there.
I don't know what it is.
It didn't work out the way we thought it would.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and he had done a good job up to that point. So I don't know. I guess maybe I'm sure they'll stick with him because, they gave Reese a couple chances or so. So I'm sure hopefully maybe it's just a aberration. He doesn't let that happen again. Fingers crossed, because got to have somebody that can catch those punts. But, one thing that I did want to mention that I thought was kind of interesting, I realized in the past, few days since the game, is one thing that we talked about was improvement under Neil Brown. Like, what could we say that it's improved? And we were having trouble identifying, certain areas. But one thing I think specifically when you talk about this Baylor game does show some improvement, because look back last season, 2021, when West Virginia played Baylor, they were 2-3 last season as well. Just as West Virginia was 2-3 playing Baylor going into this season. And last season, that 2-3 West Virginia team was manhandled by Baylor, was only able to manage 360 yards of total offense, was held under 100 yards rushing, only managed 90 yards. Fast forward to this year, 2022, West Virginia's 2-3 going up against Baylor again. And this time the Mountaineers, instead of only managing 20 points, managed to score over 40 themselves, scoring 43 on the Bears. And then 500 yards of total offense, improved that by 150 plus yards, and then over 200 yards of rushing. So I think, we've been hard on this staff and stuff. We've been hard on Matt Moore. We've been hard on Neil Brown. But I think against Baylor, they showed that they are improving some things, I think.
Absolutely. And I mean, one name that we oftentimes, forget is Chad Scott. Chad Scott has had a good reputation of putting some quality running backs out. People were really high on Letty Brown. Letty Brown deserves the respect that he gets. His pro day wasn't that impressive. By all rights, Letty Brown was not an NFL running back, but people thought he was in our system. And so, I think some of that points to Chad Scott and the way he prepares his guys. And, Tony Mathis coming into the season was supposed to be our number one running back, has not cemented himself as so, but yet came out as the number 2 running back, maybe even the number 3 running back, and, put up 140, absolutely insane
160.
numbers. 160. Yeah. And so, then you got Justin Johnson right there in your swing, whatever position you want to put him at. It's hard to label him first, second, third string right now.
Oh yeah.
Still looking very impressive, and some credit to Matt Moore, definitely getting his line in a better position. But our running backs have looked great under Chad Scott, and I think that he deserves a lot of credit for that going forward, and I don't think we mentioned his name enough.
Yeah, well, they mentioned, before that they thought that Tony Mathis this season seemed like he was trying to force it. He was pressing too much, and they thought maybe he felt pressured because, Justin Johnson was having a good camp, CJ Donaldson was having a good camp, and they performed well in those first games. So I think maybe without CJ Donaldson, being able to play in this game, that Tony Mathis probably felt relieved of a little pressure that he's felt early in the season, because he knows it's him and Justin Johnson. No matter what, he's, going to get carries. He's not going to have to worry about getting pulled and, someone outperforming him. So maybe that, having that kind of weight off his shoulders, we saw Tony Mathis play free and, and not feel pressured and stuff and be pressing like they said he has been, throughout the season. So hopefully that's, the Tony Mathis will continue to see through the rest of the season, because if you get that, you can get CJ Donaldson back, and Justin Johnson's playing the best of his career right now as well, since probably about the Virginia Tech game on, that touchdown run he had was impressive. Looked like he was shot out of a cannon on that draw play. I think the Mountaineers may have found something with this run game, because I don't know if I think that for the most part, the toughest run defenses you'll see are kind of behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, going back to Tony Mathis just for a beat, I've still been pretty high on Tony Mathis all year. I think I had brought up a few podcasts ago, that Tony Mathis has not looked bad. He had one fumble. Outside of that fumble, he's looked good. And I think that it's just a fact that he's been standing beside CJ Donaldson, which came out as a complete unknown. That's kind of overshadowed the fact that Tony Mathis has been reputable up to this point. He was not shirking his duties whatsoever. He just looked different. He looked a little bit quicker, a little bit speedier rather than determined. And that comes down to a lot of what you were just bringing up, probably thinking too much, trying to make too much. And, I wouldn't mind trying to see what kind of hands Tony Mathis has because he just looks like an athlete out there. He looks shifty.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind trying to see him get a few more catches in there because I think that if you get him out in space, I think that he can make a lot of people miss. And so I think that's just like an extra dynamic that we could really benefit from going forward.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd like to see that as well. Speaking of people catching passes that's unexpected, how about Garrett Green getting 2 or 3 snaps? And, that one he caught the pass from JT Daniels, came out from the running back spot into the slot, ran a quick out, caught the pass, and then his other 2 snaps, he lined up a quarterback with JT Daniels out at receiver, and hopefully they're setting up something for the future there.
Yeah, I think that the key word is hoping. We're hoping that they're setting something up. It sucks that, the standard here has been that we might not see that again for the rest of the season,
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those things where, because I'm sure we'll talk about it some more, just getting into it because the conversation is still No Brown and his job and what we're looking at and trying to digest really how we feel about it. And so one of the big gripes about No Brown, just get to the fine points of No Brown, the things that we would like to see change is things like that, is looking at the fact that you've been setting this up. You've got the opportunity, you got the possibility of doing something like that. You've shown it, and you've shown it in years past, but you've never acted on it. You've never been willing to kind of just make that ballsy call and, just really let one hang loose, just try something funky, do something different, change people out. And so it's one of those things like going forward, if we're still trying to keep this guy for the next year, it's one of those progressions you want to see is I hope he acts on that. I hope that we get a little trick play in there somewhere with Garrett Green getting something funky. And, and maybe we have tried it and I've just forgotten it, but that means it probably went bad, So right. I would like a funky one to go right for once. That way I can be like, oh, you remember that time that we threw it to Garrett Green and he slung it 60 yards down the field to Bryce Ford Wheaton and it was just crazy.
Or vice versa. Garrett Green takes a snap, throw it to JT, then you sneak Garrett up the field, double pass back to Garrett Green. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So hopefully there's something going on there. Yeah. Something, you could do something crazy. West Virginia seems to always get hit with the trick plays. So
pull Texas, put Hudson Card out, and they were putting Hudson Card out in this wide receiver spot and letting him, just be out there just as a threat.
Yeah, I think Garrett Green's a guy that he could help you. And, I mentioned that, with Scotty Swingler that covers the Bears on my interview with him prior to the game, that I thought with CJ Donaldson out, if we're going to see Garrett Green again, for the Mountaineers this season, I thought it would be against Baylor. And we did see him get 3 snaps there, mixed results, but who knows if we'll continue to see him in the future. We'll see how that plays out. But, talked about the Mountain run game a little bit. What about the passing game? Just kind of get your thoughts on that. I thought that the receivers, definitely looked much improved from what they put on against Texas. They really made some tough catches. I know Reese Smith went up and got one. Bryce Ford Wheaton went up and got one. Sam James had a couple good grabs. And then, of course, career day from Caden Prather. JT Daniels, I thought all good things minus, the one interception, which we can talk about that as well if you want. But just kind of your overall thoughts on the passing game and what they showed against Baylor to pull off this victory.
Yeah, I mean, I saw what we expected from our passing game. Maybe not as many big plays as what we would still like. It was still a lot of pick and pops hitting Caden Prather. A lot of his yards came in the 10-yard variety, And if it works, it works. Run with it. Sam James kind of catching some wind right now. He had a little bit of drops. He's against Texas, but he still played the best this year against Texas for Sam James.
And bounced back good this week.
But he's coming along, right? Bouncing back. That's really big. He had 2 consistent weeks, which I think is something, I'm probably going to harp on more going forward. Is just consistency. I know I bring that up a lot going into Texas Tech is can we keep what we've seen consistent?
Right.
But passing game, I thought that was probably our best performance by our wide receivers probably in a couple years. I mean, realistically, as a whole squad, not just one man carrying the torch or 2 guys, putting the team on their back, but it was a full team effort, and I think that that's something that we've really been lacking and something that we could definitely use a lot more of. Even Preston Fox got a catch or 2 in there, I think. So definitely spreading it out. I'd like to see, Cortez Braham and Jeremiah Aaron more out there, just letting them, keep legs fresh. I will go to the JT Daniels interception and gripe about it a little bit because JT's got to learn that sometimes he's got to pull that thing down and run it. You got that time, you got the 3rd down and 3 pass to Michael Laughlin last week against Texas, or week before last against Texas, when you could have brought that ball down and just got those yardage guaranteed running. I don't know if he's scared, of just like putting himself out there like that or what, but he's got elite arm talent. It's almost like, the opposite of Garrett Green. He's going to try to rely on that arm talent too much. And I think that's why he threw that interception is, that is the worst thing he could have done. He could have thrown it out of bounds. That would have been fine. He could have chucked it at the ground, got an intentional grounding, would have been fine. He could have taken a sack for all I cared. Anything but what he did. And it was a bad interception. I mean, it was really bad. He didn't see, trying to do the rollout. His rollout packages have not looked that great. And, going forward, like JT Daniels has really got to learn to tuck that ball and, take a yard, take 2 yards, do something. But he can't. I feel like he's tried to make that throw a couple times now. And, the other ones have definitely fallen flat, haven't really, I can think of one rollout pass that he threw to Michael Laughlin earlier in the year. That's about it, man. When he gets outside of the pocket, I don't think his throws have been that great. And, sometimes I think that it would be more dynamic if he tucked it and ran and tried to pick up a couple yards there and would actually show better on him. So that's my one gripe for JT Daniels so far. It's just, once he gets out of that pocket, man, he looks sketch. He looks sus the best.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that, him struggling on the rollout plays once he gets outside the pocket. So we'll see if they continue to do that or if they, cut back on that. And if he continues to struggle on that, that's definitely something to watch out for as the season continues. But, a lot of people really criticize the play call there, just calling the play action pass on first down. I think maybe if West Virginia doesn't get the false start penalty, because it was actually on 1st and 15, they got the false start. And so it was 1st and 15. Maybe if it's 1st and 10, they run that ball. But the one reason I said that I couldn't criticize it too much is because throughout that game, West Virginia had kind of broken their tendency that they'd shown throughout most of the season to run on first down, and they'd been passing the ball a lot on first down against Baylor, and it had been giving them good success throughout the game, and they were staying ahead of the chains. So if it's not broke, don't fix it type deal to me. I know you're trying to run the clock out there. There was only like 3 minutes left, but if you can get a good chunk of yards there on first down, that was going to help you a lot. And they had been doing that through the pass game, and you were going to need a first down or two for Baylor to, be able to waste those timeouts. So I'm not too bad about the play call. It's, that decision to throw it by JT, like you talked about, I think just got to be more aware situationally there. And you expect him to be more aware there to just, throw it away or run it, get a couple yards, get what you can, when you're trying to run the clock out like that. I think what he saw was the linebacker had his back towards JT Daniels. So I don't think JT thought that he knew that he was going to throw the ball and thought he could squeeze it in, but the linebacker turned around, at the perfect time, and it was right to him. So, ill-advised by JT and kind of a bad decision there. But other than that, like we said, the passing game looked improved, and West Virginia made the plays that they needed to make, that we knew they would need to, because we thought they would have, struggled to run the ball against Baylor. But of course, they surprised and were able to do that too, to the tune of over 200 yards and an awesome day offensively, over 500 yards of offense. So, that's a little bit on the positive side. Mountaineers come out with the win 43-40, but we got to flip it over and talk about the other side of the ball. And it's not going to be as positive of a discussion. And I think everyone can see why when you watch the product on the field, especially secondary wise. And the worst part about that is, as bad as West Virginia has struggled in the secondary, the injuries are mounting up there. We saw a lot of people go down in this game. Malachi Ruffin, who they'd wanted to transition to safety, had to come back and play corner for the Mountaineers towards the end of that game. Like I said, Wilson Lamb's going to be out. McCormick's hurt. Not sure of his status yet. Charles Woods probably, more likely than not going to play against Texas Tech as well. So, you may go into this game with Rashad Ajayi, Mumu, Malachi Ruffin, and spells, and that might be all you got at corner right now, heading in to play Texas Tech. But, that's for another discussion. Talking more specifically about the Baylor game and what you saw from this Mountaineer defense, let's specifically focus on kind of the passing defense in the secondary first, because I think that's the point of contention. So what are your thoughts there with what you saw in this game against Baylor, Brad?
Yeah, I think that this is where, a lot of the earlier frustrations, now that we're 6 games in and we've got a bit more data points, more game footage to watch, more stuff to look at. It was tough in the earlier part of the season, feeling like the whole team's undisciplined, but it feels like the offense has kind of gotten their act together. The offensive line has kind of showed up. They've been way more improved, even at the right tackle position. the wide receivers have had 2 good weeks, have shown more consistency, have gotten better. It's like when you look at the defensive side, though, man, it's just so undisciplined. And I couldn't help but see, guys turning their heads and talking to other guys when the ball's being snapped. And, when the ball is snapped, you've got guys running around, looking like chickens with their heads cut off. And I mean that literally, guys running around. Where am I going? I literally saw this motion at one point in time, and that's never something you want to see.
That's not something you want to, not
for
at
your
all.
DBs, and you got guys getting over late in the plays, and that's something that has nothing to do with athleticism, that has nothing to do with talent, that has everything to do with, I want to say, like, repetition and like not inexperience, and undisciplined. And I want to, so I think that's the two things. Either they're really just like undisciplined or they're inexperienced. And I want to hang my hat on inexperience, but you're 6 games in now, and you've still got guys that don't know what they're doing. And the young guys, you can kind of forgive it. But even then, you guys were second string going into this. I can't help but think that you weren't just sitting on the sidelines doing nothing, all spring and fall ball, summer too. You guys have gotten the looks at this. You guys have been in this system, most of you, for 6 months now at least. You shouldn't be having the kind of difficulty that you're having back there, even being new into the system. At least not in my mind. I've never had to do it. I'm not a coach. I'm not a player. But I think that's just – there's something there, and it rubs me the wrong way. And I think that, I think that now is definitely where a lot of my frustrations lie.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I think – and it's the little things, really, that they're, messing up on. We've heard Jordan Leslie and Neil Brown both speak about it. It's not that they don't know what to do. They don't know the plays. It's that they're just the little tiniest fundamentals. Like if they're supposed to be on inside leverage and they're supposed to be lined up on a guy's left eye and they're lined up on the outside on the right eye, and then that man beats him inside. Just small things like that. And if you're not improving on that, like you said, 6 games in, then it's like, when are you going to do it? And then the other side of that coin, of course, is the inexperience that you talked about. And I think that rears its head at times as well when you see guys like Jacoby Spells, who we know are going to be good players, really talented, but just a second late on a play, like, the touchdown to Baylor at the goal line, he's right there on his back, but it's just those lumps you're going to take when you're having to play a true freshman there at that position. And then, you take the good with the bad. You get a pick 6 against Virginia Tech, and then this game you give up, 200 plus to Gavin Holmes. And that's just the way it is when you have the inexperience that West Virginia has on the back end. And at this point, we have a sample size of 6 games halfway through the season. It kind of is what it is right now. And I think that's why you kind of hear Neil Brown keep repeating the phrase, the pieces are the pieces, because he's kind of alluding to the fact of, this is who we got. This is just kind of what it is. And we got
what else do you expect me to do, man?
Yeah, we got to work around it. That's the only thing that they can do, is try and find ways to win in spite of that, it seems. So, we'll keep talking about it and hopefully keep hoping it improves. But West Virginia's secondary and pass defense seems to kind of be what it is, but we'll see what happens moving forward. But, the bright spot of the run defense, of course, is the defensive line. Dante Stills, great game in this one, gets a tackle for a loss, ties the career record at West Virginia. We'll see him break that at some point this season and become the all-time tackle for loss leader for the Mountaineers, passing Grant Wiley. But what did you think, what you saw from the West Virginia run defense in this one, and the things they did to stop that Baylor power run game, that outside zone that really hurt them last year? I thought they contained it a lot better this season. Baylor, made their plays here and there, but for the most part, I thought the run defense was pretty strong. What about you?
Yeah, and I think Dante's an absolute athlete. He does what he does. He did what he does, and I've given him a little bit of knock every now and then about just not performing every game. It feels like he might not show up exactly for every game. And, that's a lot for me to loft on one kid that kind of has to carry, a huge mantle of West Virginia defense on his back. And, I really love Dante. I really appreciate everything he's done for our program, really making his name, a permanent fixture in Mountaineer lore going forward. When it comes to the run defense, though, I think that a big part of it is really building up our big bodies down in the center, something that we haven't had for a long time, man. Jordan Jefferson is just an absolute stud. Every time I look at him, I think that he's
a beast.
God, man, just the way he manhandles some guys. I've never seen a lineman get tossed so many times by a guy before. And it seems like every game, it doesn't matter who he's up against. Jordan Jefferson's checking a guy and then he's tossing him. It's absolutely insane to watch him play. And so I think him and the addition of Mike Lockhart, I think having another just like big body down there to soak up the pressure when Jordan Jefferson's not in there just really doesn't give offenses any relief. And, when I'm not too sure what year Mike Lockhart's in. I think that he's got another year, especially with COVID.
I think he's only a sophomore or junior, one of the two. So
yeah, especially with, extra years of eligibility because of COVID. But, we've talked about Pitt, Texas, Baylor, teams like this. It's like, oh, man, they're 2 or 3 bodies, big bodies deep, and, they're just tough to deal with. You never get a break with them. That's going to be us next year, quite honestly. We're going to have a lot of talent returning. Even though Dante Stills won't be here, he'll be making his paycheck on Sunday. We're still going to have a lot of deep talent on that defensive line. And I would even, and I'm going to keep saying it, I would even gamble that we haven't seen all that we've got on that end of the ball yet. So I'm telling you, he keeps on bringing up Asani Redwood, and I think that his day is coming. I'm pretty sure unless they have changed the red shirt rules, because it's not just the first 4 games, right? It's any 4 games. I've heard people referencing the first 4 games. I think that they've just been wrong, but I've always been second-guessing myself.
Yeah, it's just up to 4, yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's where we're saving Asani Redwood. I think that he's definitely trying to keep him, preparing him, put him in the last 4 games of the year, let him run, maybe the last 3 games of the year, save yourself for a bowl game if you get close to it. If you're not going to hit that moment, you might put him in sooner just to see, but his time's coming. That guy's going to be coming. You guys are going to, I guarantee you, he's going to make a play or 2 this year, and start keep that depth building. And next year, I think that we're going to be in this exact same spot where we're like, man, this defensive line is just incredibly talented.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I was gonna even say that some of these guys we haven't even seen yet are going to be really good, and specifically Redwood was kind of the one coming to mind for me as well.
Yeah, guys like Justin Benton and get into a little bit of recruiting news. James Hurd, 5.5 sacks in his last game. Justin Benton has just been eating people alive every game. Future looks bright.
He's going to be a monster.
We got to get there, man.
Absolutely. Just got to keep building it. And I think that that's one thing that you can say for this coaching staff they've done is they've done a great job building up the trenches. West Virginia's offensive line, much maligned past few seasons. This season has been, the strong point of that offensive unit, I would say. And, you were talking about Jordan Jefferson throwing people around, and I know we're kind of talking about the defense now, but that made me, we got to shout out Zach Frazier for his performance in this one. I know Siaki Ika was out for a portion of this game, but he was in for a large portion of it and even came back following his injury. But Zach Frazier handled that, man, and it was one-on-one blocks too.
Like I said, I saw him, and I'll never forget it. I'm pretty sure it was Ika too. But I saw Zach Frazier pancake the guy, and it wasn't a good play. Like, I don't think the play worked out well in our favor. But just watching Zach Frazier pancake him was just like – and being a big guy myself, having played that position my whole life when I was, elementary, middle, high school, that's what you love to see, pancaking. Right. Usually I was, the defensive guy. But, love seeing the offensive guys get the pancakes, especially when it's on our team. And there was also another play where I saw him scoot to the second level. Again, I don't think the play was good. I think that, it was still a negative play. But I remember watching him snap the ball, and Zach Frazier was on the linebacker in the blink of an eye. I was like, good Lord, that man can scoot.
He's having a hell of a year. He really is.
He's got some Gideon is up.
Yeah, he's on his way to not only, an excellent season this year, but he's going to have a heck of a career, throughout his time at West Virginia. So, but, specifically, getting back to the defense a little bit, I thought some standout performances from Aubrey Burks, forced a fumble, get an interception. Jasir Cox, 2 fumble recoveries. Overall, the Mountaineer defense, like we said, lackluster performance in the pass and defense game. But the one thing they did in this game that they haven't done throughout the season that I think can be kind of something that makes up for their deficiencies there is forced turnovers. If they can continue to do that, they're going to give themselves fighting chances in these games because they might not be able to stop any of these other teams, but they can force them, into some turnovers to get the ball back to the Mountaineer offense. who knows what can happen. But
sorry, it makes you feel like special teams is going to be crucial too. And I feel good with our special teams right now. You know, Anthony Del Negro is still he got a tackle on a kickoff return this weekend.
I was about to say that was in the fourth quarter too. I think after West Virginia had taken the lead, and if he doesn't make
he
that
looked
tackle,
like he was going to break
that kick was going to go. Yeah, it was a big tackle. I noticed that when I was rewatching the game. I was like, because he had nothing but green grass, and Del Negro was the last one there to get him. So
I remember thinking that because
all over.
The 47 also stands out to me because that was my number all the way up until high school. And so, you know, I love seeing Anthony Del Negro, you know, make use of it. And I noticed that too. I was like, man, this kick's going. I was like, this is scary. And then, you know, number 47 comes out of nowhere and puts him down.
Big standout for the Mountaineers, you know, recruited specifically for special teams, and he's made plays there all season. And I think the biggest play of this game arguably came on special teams with the extra point blocked by Dante Stills, ran back by Jacoby Spells to give the Mountaineers 2 points, because I think at that point, you know, Baylor and West Virginia were back and forth. Baylor was going to kick the extra point to go up 38-31, and then, you know, West Virginia would have had a chance to tie. But with the blocked extra point, that gave the Mountaineers, you know, 2 points because they ran it back. Then that allowed the Mountaineers the opportunity to score a go-ahead touchdown instead of going back and forth with Baylor. So really big play in the game, I think, and can't say enough about Dante Stills and what he did to make that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a tough gap to squeeze through, but yeah, he did it. Got that big mid up there and knocked her down.
Oh, yeah. Special teams been a bright spot this season, specifically the blocking teams. You know, punt block, Del Negro's tipped one. You know, Donaldson got the block when Del Negro blew up the wedge against a Pitt, and then now an extra point block as well. And then if the extra point block isn't the biggest special teams play of the game, then it's probably got to be the game-winning field goal by Casey Legg. And when we're talking about how good West Virginia special teams has been this season, you can't fail to mention him. Perfect on extra points, perfect on field goals now, 10 of 10, and has a game winner to his credit to give the Mountaineers the 43-40 win in this one.
Absolutely. The leg has been dominant. The leg has definitely been showing out.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps it up. He's going to be on that Lou Groza finalist list at the end of the seasons, and I hope he is. You know, he's playing like a Big 12 first teamer and potential All-American candidate at kicker. So hopefully we didn't just jinx him talking about it, but moving forward, I think he'll continue to do good for the Mountaineers.
West Virginia native there. Talk about West Virginia boys really showing up this year, man. They're really setting the tone. You know, Sean Martin, Dante Stills, Casey Legg,
Zach Frazier. Yeah.
Doug Nestor. Doug Nestor has looked great.
He has. He's having a great year as well. Yep, I'd agree. The Mountaineer natives, you know, think it means a little more to them, and that's why I always like being able to get them on the roster. And, you know, this is some of the most that I've seen West Virginia have, you know, specifically in the starting lineup, and those players are really performing well. So definitely got to shout that out what's happening. Yep. Yeah. Preston Fox finally gets in this one, and I was kind of interested about that because it had always been this year Cortez Braham spelling Bryce Ford Wheaton, but it was Preston Fox this game, and I don't know if we saw Braham suit up play any, so I don't know if maybe he's a little banged up or if Preston Fox has surpassed him. I don't know. It's something to keep an eye on moving forward, I guess.
Could have just been the play design, you know.
Yeah.
Put a guy out
maybe
there
just wanted to get Fox out there finally.
You know? Yeah.
Which I was glad to see.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I hope they keep playing him. Hope they do.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that being said, we'll get into some final thoughts momentarily here before we get ready to close out season 5, episode 141 of the CRW podcast here. Appreciate everyone that's tuning in to our Baylor review and reactions edition here. If you're on the video side, whether you're watching on our YouTube channel here or the WV Sports Now YouTube channel, as we are a part of the WV Sports Now podcast network there on the Sports Now family of networks, do us a favor while you're in here, hit that like button, give us the thumbs up. That'll help this video's performance and help future videos performances as well. And if you're on either of those channels and you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. If you're a West Virginia fan, helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer football content out to Mountaineer Nation. And if you're listening on the audio side, we are available on any preferred podcast platform, all of the major ones. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, do us a favor while you're there, leave us a rating. That really helps us in that aspect. I appreciate you guys tuning in, whether you're on the video side here on YouTube or you're listening on the audio side on any podcast platform here. But before we get ready to close out this final episode, Brad, any final thoughts on the Mountaineers, you know, getting back on the winning track against Baylor to get to 3-3 on the season, back to 500, or the season at large moving forward. Just anything, WVU football related here you want to touch on as our final thoughts here.
Yeah, I'm trying to make more of a habit here of double checking myself and keeping myself consistent going forward. I'm going to restate that I think that, Baylor was not a great team. I think they're probably the third worst team that we've played all year, but we beat them. And that's important. And so going forward, you can only get better from, next team's right there with them. Beat them too. You just got to keep making that next step, in my opinion. It's 1 week after another. You got a chance to win them all. You got a chance to lose them all. So it's all up to what you want to do and about the mentality and about how we go about it. So it's about where I feel good win against Baylor. Let's go get another one against Texas Tech.
Yep. That's what it's all about. Let's, build some momentum and try and get rolling a little bit here. But I think, to me, my final thought, I've said it before. I mentioned, I don't know if it was on the reaction show or if it was on the Cruise Film Reviews, but whatever I mentioned it on, I'll mention it again. One of the best things to come out of this game, I think, for the team, for the coaching staff, and for Mountaineer Nation, for the fan base that we all have now moving forward, is a little bit of hope. And hope can be a powerful thing, and hopefully it continues to allow West Virginia to find ways to win moving forward, as they found a way to win in this game against Baylor. That being said, as far as us here on the Country Roads webcast, we'll have plenty of content coming. Of course, Season 5, Episode 142, we will preview and predict the upcoming game against the Texas Tech Red Raiders in Lubbock in the 7th game of the 2022 WVU football season. And then also, in the meantime, if you're listening on the audio side and you're not on the video side, like those watching here on YouTube, come hop over to our YouTube channel there, Country Roads Webcast on YouTube, just like it is on the podcast side here. We have plenty of exclusive content that'll keep your thirst quenched, your Mountaineer content thirst quenched throughout the week. If the podcast alone episodes, the couple of those a week don't do it for you, we also have Cruise Film Reviews when I can get to it for games. I try and do the weekly player grades, recruiting updates, basketball stuff's about to kick up. We're going to have some exclusive content there on the YouTube side for that as well. So plenty of Mountaineer football content for you to get from us here at the Country Roads webcast now and moving forward throughout football and basketball season. So if you're on the audio side, come over to the video side, get some more exclusive content, and subscribe to us there as well. That being said, we really appreciate you tuning in any way that you do, whether it be on the audio side or the video side, for Season 5, Episode 141 here of the CRW podcast, our Baylor Review and Reactions edition. That being said, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and for Bradley, until next time, let's go Mountaineers.
If you really want to know, then come on, let's go. Take a stroll down those